You get it?
Yes. Good job.
So
Great.
but
I've used this blow dryer, girl.
Put them in a metal container because those embers can start
Every morning.
I
Oh my
understand.
gosh.
The
I mean, I
stakes
wash my hair every day,
are high.
literally.
Ha, 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 ha.
And I
Sneakybear.com.
forgot, I've forgotten how to do my own hair. I used to do it in college because I don't have a relaxer. So, just before I hear everybody run their mouths, let me just do it myself. Well, I figured, I'm like,
competitive cheerleader.
I can blow my hair out again.
And the physician was like, your best option is St. Jude. Receiving treatment that was life-saving for our child.
Girl, I'm
and knowing
exhausted.
that treatment
as soon as I get out,
I've got
some things I need to do here. But, I'm going to take a nap when I get off the air, which is very difficult for me to do. Because once I get started with my day, I want to keep on going.
Did you know that roughly 1 in 88 American kids will be diagnosed with some form?
All right. I think everything is good. And I think we're coming in a little bit less than a minute.
First, I'm glad that you are recognizing that that you need it and you're going to do it.
We don't give a final diagnosis of autism at
Thank
age
you
1.
very much. I feel
At that point,
chastened.
children are
Thank
still
you.
developing, and it's really not possible to be 100% certain if the child has autism at such a young age. So what we do is when a baby fails a screening tool and then they come into our
Okay,
center,
so everybody,
and we do
hey, I am
in-depth testing of
glad
their
to be with you
social
today.
behavior and their language and
Praising
their
God
cognitive
that I
skills.
can be.
If
Praising
they're not
God that
meeting
you
normal
can be as
developmental
well.
milestones, like if they're not pointing, if they're not
Oh
babbling,
boy, so we got a
tell
lot
the
to
parents
talk
and we'll
about.
send him out for early treatment because he's
Trump
at risk
arrest
for
and
having some
surrender
sort of
is
developmental delay.
ever
And then by the time
closer,
the child is
and
treated, we give a final diagnosis.
With
and so
Checkup
is the
on Health,
political
I'm Chris
pitch.
Whitting.
The emotions are continuing to rise. You got the Republican debate tonight. We're going to be talking about that. And Judge Glenda Hatchett, we might have her on a little bit later if she is up to it, talking about her sexual assaults. Back in a minute.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. Oh, yes, we can. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I am
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023. It's a joy to be with you today on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Hey, Andre and Robert and Linear Bob and Raphael, sending you all so much love this morning. And Robert, how you doing? Call me at 773-763-9278. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to have Judge Glenda Hatchett on. We're going to be talking about her sexual assault case, indeed, with her counsel, who is attorney C.K. Hoffler. What happened there? Can you imagine? You're at a professional meeting. You're introduced to a sheriff, no less, and he reaches out to touch your breast. Oh my goodness, how awful. And there's so many different things that go through your mind, as a woman, as a Black woman. It's and when you see when the man does that, when a white man does that, I mean, there are all of these different permutations and combinations that go through your mind. There's so much that you read into it. And when I've shared this story with many of my girlfriends, white, Black, yellow, and red, they've all been appalled. Just like, so for so many reasons. And with my men friends, quite frankly. So we're going to talk about that. Let's talk about the Republican debate tonight at the bottom of the hour, as well as the imminent Trump arrest. More and more of his people are turning themselves in. Did that overnight. And what is all of this going to look like? Call us at 773-763-9278. 773-763-WCPT. I want to know what your thoughts are with respect to this insane political time. Let's get to some of the headlines. The first Republican presidential debate is in Milwaukee tonight. Isn't that interesting? You're going to have the Democratic convention in the Midwest in Chicago, and you're having their first debate in Milwaukee. Who's taking part? 8 candidates, including former Vice President Mike Pence, Florida governor. He's not the former governor, Ron DeSantis, and the person who is really turning out to be a very strong contender for number 2, Vivek Ramaswamy. So we're going to see who is going to be able to emerge on the stage. Will you see more? Will Nikki Haley? Will Chris Christie? Will Tim Scott? who's going to make the great impression tonight? And is this going to be the vice presidential debate, as some people are saying, or is this really someone who could become the nominee of the party? We'll have to see. A massive heat wave, which is going to hit Chicago and Minnesota over the central U.S., could set hundreds of records. They say people in 16 states across the Midwest, the plains, and the South are under excessive heat warnings, as we are in Chicago today, as you are in Minneapolis, St. Paul, with heat indexes approaching 130 degrees in some places, everybody. In Texas, Tropical Storm Harold made landfall yesterday, bringing strong winds and heavy rain. Oh, my goodness. 8 people were rescued from a cable car stuck at 900 feet. 6 children, 2 adults spent hours dangling above a remote mountainous area in the south of Pakistan yesterday. They got stuck, but they were rescued, thankfully. Oh my gosh. I don't think I would have been able to take it. A man who killed a woman, a business owner, a beloved member of the community, over a pride flag, wrote hateful posts. Laura Carlton was shot dead outside her clothing store in Cedar Glen, California on Friday. Deputies shot and killed the attacker, a 27-year-old man near the scene. Apparently, he yelled homophobic slurs before the killing and had frequently written and shared anti-LGBTQ plus posts on social media. They need to give you his name, and you need to know what his background is. That's what needs to happen. India will attempt to land on the moon today. India is aiming to become the first nation to land on the moon's south pole. That's the dark side of the moon, if you will, where pools of ice could provide water for long-term settlements. The uncrewed craft, that is the unmanned craft, no human being is on it, is set to touch down this morning. Prayers up, fingers crossed. Well, you can't have prayers and fingers crossed at the same time, everybody. Prayers up for a successful lunar landing. In Chicago, 98 degrees, excessive heat warning. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 96 degrees, excessive heat warning. Please, everybody, if you're too warm, go to a cooling station, a library, a police station, a fire station. Go where you can get some relief and check on your neighbors, young people, and the elderly. I can't help but think, Pastor Vicki Johnson, part of the tragedy of Maui is that the children were home from school on that day. No one's really talking about that. So when they talk about looking for these hundreds of bodies, these people were incinerated. You couldn't get out of Lahaina. They had shut down the roads down to one road, so they were stuck there. And then when the firemen went to use the fire hydrants, they worked initially, but the water was shut off. So it's like, well, how you need to explain that to me. When you're at the height of the fire, when you have an opportunity to stop the fire, you shut off the water so you don't have access to a fire hydrant. In Major League Baseball, the Brewers 7, the Twins 3, the Tigers 8, the Cubs 6, the Mariners 6, and the White Sox 3. In the WNBA, the Sky 102, yes, and the Storm 79, the Lynx 91, yes, and the Wings 86. I just had to bring that up because the more I find out about what happened in Maui and Lahaina specifically, which is where the indigenous Hawaiians live, the poorest people on that island live, the first capital of Hawaii, that was the Kingdom of Hawaii, capital when we stole it. These kids were home that day. So don't we've only given them $700 when we voted to give Ukraine more than $20 billion on that same day. Think about that, everybody. Think about it. Oh, Pastor Vicki Johnson. Well, you know what? We come from the civil rights movement. And, you're supposed to see these things. Right. And more than that, I come from the church. And you're not supposed to treat people this way.
That's right.
You don't treat people this way.
Very disturbing.
just hello, everybody. I'm still here. Pastor Vicki Johnson, how can we worship with you? I can't believe not only do you have one pulpit, you've got two. Yay.
Yay. You can worship with me at Lebanon Lutheran, 13100 South Manistee in Hegwish, and at St. Thomas Lutheran at 80th and Jeffrey Boulevard in Chicago at 11:30 a.m. So one is at 9 and then the other at 11:30. Yeah, 11:30 is 1 hour of power.
All right. What is the good news today? I certainly need it.
Well, good morning, Santita, and good morning to all of your morning stars and friends. There is good news. What's a great way to kickstart somebody's day? Positivity. Hearing words of praise often sparks positive feelings within. Praise can build your self-esteem and help you feel like you belong. It can even motivate change in behavior for the better. People often have nice things to say to me after a concert, after I've sang, after I've done something like preaching a sermon or participating in some activity that would precipitate gratitude. But seldom has anyone expressed appreciation or praise out of the blue. So I think that if we make a point of out of the blue praise, out of the blue sending a text, out of the blue mailing a card or making something that we don't like to do very much anymore, making a phone call and talking to someone in person, to let them know that we love or appreciate them, that's positivity. If it would make them feel a spark of positivity for a brighter day, it would be well worth it. Quiet yourself, and it will come to you exactly who that person should be. If children would see adults modeling this behavior, it might cut down on some of the bullying that goes on in their schools and playgrounds that has begun already. And this is just the third day of school here in Chicago. And then if adults modeled it for themselves, it could make the workplace a better environment to spend so much of your time. 1 Thessalonians, the 5th chapter and 11th verse says, "Therefore encourage one another and build up each other as you are doing." Appreciate someone today. Say something nice. It is bound to be encouragement to them and build them up. Do it out of the blue when they least expect it, and when they least expect it coming from you. If you will do this, and I believe that you will, then to me, that's good news.
Amen. They were just talking about that on CNN this morning. This woman who's written a book, I'm going to get the name of it. She said, our children today are hyper-competitive because they've been put in that position. But if we could step back and what they're missing is unconditional love. I love you just because, not because of what you've done and what you've accomplished, but just because you're here. And that is important. It changes how you live, changes who you are.
Yes.
I remember my father told me a really, really rough time. He said, you can't be my baby when you get A's and my B when you're not. He said, you'll always be my baby. That's the first thing. I'll never, ever forget that. And it was at one of the lowest, probably the lowest moment I've ever had in my life. And I'll never forget that because he's always held to that. Always held to that. That's so important. Pastor Vicki Johnson, how and where can we worship with you on Sunday?
Lebanon Lutheran Church, 9 a.m. on Sundays, 13100 South Manor Street, and at St. Thomas Lutheran, 80th and Jeffrey Boulevard at 11:30 a.m. 1 hour of power. Both services can be viewed on Facebook.
I love you, Pastor Vicki Johnson. I love you, love you, love you.
Love you, Santita.
Maybe we should sing something for Christmas together at Push.
Whoa, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, let's think about that. Let's not think about it.
Wait. I'm going to hold you. I'm holding you to it, Santita.
Okay, you got me.
Okay.
Because I think we should do something at Push for Christmas. I really do. So
that would be great.
Okay. Hold me to it. To dig in those files. Miss McLean, Stanley, Keeble, and Davis. Dig into the files. Go on, dig in the crates, and let's find some nice, a couple of nice Negro spirituals and things like that we can do. Seriously, let's do it.
We'll do.
Let's do it. Love you.
Love you.
Dr. Shanina Knighton, I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it, as Pam Morris of Walton says, our gospel sister. Infection preventionist, registered nurse. Whether you had all of those letters behind your name, and you do, all of those accomplishments, and you do, I just think you're a wonderful human being, and I hope you just know that today.
Well, likewise, Santita, and I am absolutely blessed beyond measure to be among your presence, who is also a wonderful human being. And I love the fact that that's you beyond, any radio, beyond any camera. It's just who you are at the core. And so I'm so grateful for that and appreciative. So ditto and kudos to you too.
Well, I love you. Sorry, we lost part of you yesterday because she sticks around. Even she'll send text.
And I know. I'm like, that ain't me causing interference. My phone be on mute. So I'm letting the staff know right now. My phone is on mute. It's not me. You don't hear no airwaves or nothing because I'm listening and I'm tuned in on mute.
Well, just hang out for a minute because we're going to be talking about this Republican debate at the bottom of the hour and all these things that are happening politically. I think it's a very exciting time. We need to talk about that. And then, of course, Judge Glenda Hatchett's sexual assault case. Can you imagine meeting someone and you say hello and they reach for your breast? Fortunately, the man who facilitated the introduction, and he was a sheriff.
Oh my gosh.
You can't make this stuff up. And of course, her counsel, Attorney C.K. Hoffler. So let's talk about that. It's going to have a fantastic and robust panel as we talk about that. But right now, I want to I want to hear what's on your mind with respect to infection prevention. I mean, our kids are back at school here in Chicago, and they're increasingly going to school before Labor Day, which was like back in the day when I was in school. Labor Day was like the end of the summer. I've got to go to school this week. But these kids are there. So what's on your mind?
Good morning, Santita. I think just in the spirit of you talking about school, it's very important for us to be paying attention to what's going on around us right now. And the fact that, yes, there are some colleges, universities, healthcare facilities that are, they're actually starting back their actual COVID protocols in regards to mask mandates. And I'm going to tell anyone, just as I would before, mask alone is not what's going to keep us safe. Meaning, if you are not cleaning your hands, which is the single most important way to prevent the spread of infections, then at that point, you failed, because it takes hand hygiene to occur correctly before you can even put a mask on. When you take a mask off, if you're still wearing the mask as a chin girdle, then it won't matter. And so the mask typically won't be doing what it's intended to do. There was a Cochrane review that came out this past spring, and it was controversial in that the findings were not conclusive that masks were helpful. But what I will continue to emphasize is that while people may say that masks are not helpful, I argue in that we did not evaluate whether or not they are worn correctly all the time. And of course, if they are not worn correctly all the time, then that can be that deciding factor in someone saying that it's not effective. So I always tell people on the topics, if you are in a facility where there is some sort of mandate in place, then make sure that you are wearing it at the bridge of your nose and making sure that it's covering down to the bottom of your chin and making sure that you are taking it off from ear to ear. But specifically as it relates to schools, and I know I have like about a minute, Santita, I just want to remind people, send your kids reminders through the day, pack a little note in their lunchbox, and just tell them, keep safe, keep the germs away from home, remember to wash your hands, remember to stay away from people that are coughing and sneezing, remember your personal space, meaning it is very important for kids to not let other kids inside of their personal space. And we all know that this very early in age, when they are younger, they have no awareness of that as much as they should. But teaching your children what that means could be life-saving. Unfortunately, there are conditions around such as multi-inflammatory syndrome in children, which is a side effect of COVID. And while it happens very rarely in children, it can be deadly. And you don't want to find out if your child is going to be one of those cases. So I suggest for people to make sure that your kid has what I call a little supply pack of hand sanitizer, of masks if they need them, of disinfectants if they're not sure of their workspace, and make sure that they are absolutely 100% cleaning their hands often, especially after touching commonly touched surfaces and toys.
And showing them how to wash their hands.
Exactly. That's it.
This is the way we wash our hands, everybody. Please, please, please put that in your child's backpack. And quite frankly, I think the school should be providing these to the children because many of the parents are living on the margins. They don't have enough money. There's a lot of people barely making it. And so we have to be sensitive to that. Hey, everybody. Of course, Dr. Shanina Knighton, she's going to be hanging out with us a little bit. She might be on mute, but she's going to be there. We talk about this Republican debate, everybody, with Robert Patillo and Dr. D. Dwight McGee. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. I know you can't wait to hear what they've got to say. Hello.
Look, I'm sure I can't wait either.
No, I'm like, I said, oh no, I can't let you go behind that. You're like, wait a minute, what are they gonna say? And be more than the Greek chorus. Just jump on in and say, hey, what? Oh my gosh. Oh boy.
Listen, I feel like that sometimes because I'm be honest, Santita, I promise to you, I'm that person that I'm always able to see two sides of everything, right? And when I tell you, like, sometimes I feel like they talk like they're me, meaning, in terms of the dialogue, because that whole reminder of just imbalance on both sides, the accusing and pointing fingers thing, and then, both sides doing the same crime, but then this one seems to get more of a break than this one, or, the public opinion that this one is worse, But I'm always going to say one thing. There is no right way to do the wrong thing.
How about that? How about that? Well, and also, look, bottom line, we have to start, be what you say you want other people to be. If you want fairness, then you be fairness. Just do that. Telling you, we're going to save ourselves if we do that. But right now, we are so busy finger pointing and not really dealing with the root of corruption, in our society, which is what we need to deal with. I don't care where it comes from. The corruption, I want it to be over. Don't you?
Exactly. Yep, I do too.
And nobody has cornered the market on this.
Hi, Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Dwight McKee on the line. I'm still trying to get Attorney Patillo on the line, but he's not answering yet. But I'll let you know when I get him.
I appreciate that. Well, Dr. Knighton here is Dwight McKee. You can say hello to him yourself, all by yourself.
Hey, Dr. Reverend Knighton, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, Dwight?
Just dandy, doing dandy.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you for all that you do for us.
Listen, and likewise, thank you for, yes, thank you. I'm appreciative. While I understand, like, sometimes your opinion may be controversial, is much needed because it allows people to critically think about what's going on. And then while sometimes memory may be a forgetting factor, in regards to people forgetting what may have occurred in the past. But you reminded people
back in a minute.
Essential.
I'm trying to get us to think more like Christians and Democrats. That's where I'm trying to go with this. We really, really are subletted our calling to a party. And that's not who God called us to be. That's not who Dr. King was. That's not who Jesse Jackson was. That's not who our leadership has been historically. They've been more morally based than politically based. And I'm trying to get us back to that.
Can we start there on that before we pivot to anything else, Dwight?
We can.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Do you want to jump in on that, Shanina?
Honestly, I just like that. It don't sound crazy.
Stand by.
I want to hear him talk.
Okay.
I tend to learn because I think, there's wisdom in that.
Do you mind if I ask you why you like listening?
We can change the world, change the world,
let me just ask you that.
We can change the world,
okay.
We can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children. Wait, let's change the world. I am green.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, everybody. And I want to hear your thoughts about the Republican debate tonight. What do you expect to hear tonight? Or maybe you won't be listening because they're the Republicans and you don't want to hear what they've got to say. I would urge you to take another tack because I think that it's important to hear what everybody's got to say. Not just hear, we need to listen, and challenge, because no matter who, no matter what, somebody's going to be president. And no matter what, you need to negotiate with them so that you can make sure you get what you need. You don't need a Democratic or Republican president. You need a president of the United States, someone who's going to do right by you, whatever your party is. Let's stay right there. And let's elevate this discussion. 773-763-9278 is the number. 773-763-9278 is the number. I want to hear your thoughts right now. Call me. Are you going to look at the debate? Are you not going to look at the debate? What do you expect to come out of the debate? And tomorrow morning, former President Trump surrenders. So a lot of the discussion about the debate might stop at the debate because, he sucks the air out the room. We've got Dr. D, Dwight McKee. We're working on getting Robert Patillo on with us. But I've got Dr. Shanina Knighton, who said she wanted to stay over. She said, I don't want to participate per se, but she often stays over and listens to the conversation. Why do you want to listen today?
So, Santita, like, I want to listen every day. Is honestly, I think the biggest thing is, and we know this to be true, mainstream media, in terms of, let's say, the narrative that's shared, is not always a place of where you can critically think. And when I was looking back at papers, let's say from the 1940s up until now, I think that the language has changed, and that before it might have told you the sky is blue in a paper from back in the 40s. Now it's tragic. The sky is dark blue. So there's like this opinion and this emotion that's attached to it. that sometimes when you hear that emotion inside of the paper, you automatically have a bias towards the situation. But when I'm able to listen to the show, the intelligence of the speakers, bring to me a sense of balance when it comes to politics. And while things may not necessarily be not public, it may not be popular. It's a place where honestly they're just giving the facts and they're reminding us of what happened back then. And so even too recently, a highlight of that might have been the fact that, yes, there was, accusals of Bush and tampering. There's been accusals of, Hillary Clinton and her sabotaging Bernie Sanders. So there's so many things that if it's not in the media, we tend to forget about it. But then when those things are brought up, it's like, oh, well, wow, two wrongs don't make a right. And there's no right way to do the wrong thing, as I mentioned. And so when we talk about that accountability piece, it does make someone think that there is an imbalance of power in regards to where attention is focused on. And we're looking at stuff such as California, when we're looking at places of where, relief is being called late, when things are not being done to take care of the American people, it does make me question what is the angle, what is the agenda, and what is the intention of our political leaders if it's not to keep us safe, if it's not to make sure that we're doing the best that we can and able to live an optimal life as citizens.
Amen to that. Dwight LaKey, your thoughts? I mean, as you said, you're really trying to help to bend the arc, if you will, back to historically where we were with our politics. Speak to that. What you just heard from Dr. Knighton and where you think we need to be going.
Dr. Knighton specializes in sanitation. That's her value, whether it's germs or it's politics. And so I really appreciate that about her.
That was rich. You're good. You're good. You're good.
But I was saying earlier is what I'm trying to get us back to is the moral imperative. In the last 30, 40, 50 years, we really sublet our moral authority to a democratic narrative. And we've allowed them to give us the talking points. And it's really extracted us from the nobility of our calling. Dr. King used to say that he didn't see us as that God put us over here as an enslaved people. Say God really sent us over here from Africa as missionaries to civilize the uncivilized and to give some moral bearing to the immoral. He always talked about, the moral imperative. And Black people, because of our nature and our soulfulness and our religious bearing, being the conscience of the nation. And that was really how we operated historically. Our leadership operated. They were always above. They were the politics of the time, but they were also always above the politics at the time, whether it was Frederick Douglass or Harriet Tubman, who was a minister, or Nicola Randolph, who challenged both Republicans and the Democrats, or whether it was Dr. King. Most of our leadership really came out of the church, and the primary commitment was to the church rather than the party. Somehow convoluted. And now the party gives us the narrative, whether or Democratic. And you repeat that. And much of that is locked into political expediency. One of the marvels of Dr. King is that he was able to persuade Lyndon Johnson at a moral level to become more fair and involve himself in civil rights. And Lyndon Johnson, who was, considered as an avid racist, ended up by the time we met Dr. King saying we shall overcome. But after that happened, when Lyndon Johnson then began to execute the war in Vietnam, he thought that Dr. King would be an ally. He thought Dr. King would buy into that based on political expediency and say, you know, I can really help you with this great society. All I need for you to do is support me with this war. And Dr. King said, no, you know, war is wrong whether it's you or somebody else. This is an unjust war. This is an unfair war. These are people dying, you know, for really political reasons. There's no moral reason you should be bombing these people. And it pitted him against Lyndon Johnson, who ended up not being able to run the next time around and he always thought that Dr. King turned on him. But Dr. King didn't turn on him. Dr. King turned toward right. That was his bearing, that the mark of the universe was long, but it bent toward justice. And so I'm really trying to stimulate us into getting back into that rhythm, that we deal with the moral imperative before we become an extension of the DNC, which is what I see we've been reduced to.
When you say reduced, what do you mean?
That, you know, whatever the DNC tells us is the way, the truth, and the life becomes our theology. You know, we're not independent thinking. For example, there should be a real outrage about the war and the execution of the war in the Ukraine. But we have adopted that war as if it's some preordained thing by God, without looking at any of the facts, without looking at any of the history, without any objective discourse. We've just taken the party line. And that's not who we've been historically. We've always raised issues on the moral imperative. We always looked at the war in Vietnam to see if it was a righteous war. We've always looked at the Cuban situation to see if it was righteous first or whether it was political expediency. We somehow have forsaken that calling to become more entrenched in a party, whether it's the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. You know, we've forsaken our own value system in order to fit in with them. I mean, there's some reward for that, but it's not a long-range reward. It's not an eternal reward. It's a very temporary, expedient kind of reward. Dr. King said some folk operate with expediency. He said, that's not my calling. My calling is to be right, is to be moral. The mark, the arc of the universe is moral first.
Amen to that. I think so, because there's no outrage about $700 to each family in Lahaina. $700. And then voting 23 plus billion more dollars to Ukraine on the same day.
It won't even be on the platform. It won't even be raised at the convention.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was a time that we would be marching about that, or we would be forcing Congress to address that. I really like Cornel West's campaign because he is first an advocate for the poor and the disenfranchised and the homeless. And he's operating, he said, first as a Christian and then as a politician. I'm not sure that many of the other guys are running on that. I think that whatever their moral convictions are is up for discussion. And it is corrupted the process to me in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, because that was what was attractive to me about Reverend Jackson's campaign, was that God was at the center of it all, toward a just society and a more peaceful world. And these were moral imperatives. I don't care if it's not popular. We talk about the poor. We talk about the poor, and he would be in the rooms where the most powerful meet. And they would ask him constantly, just as President Macron asked him when he got his Legion of Honor in France, what do you want? And that was always the refrain, as you recall, Dwight. What does Jesse want? What does he really want? He said, I want to end poverty. We need to end these wars. We need money to poor people and working class people. You know, I'm on the mission that Dr. King sent me on. He gave me an assignment. And this is part of my assignment. Okay, might not get me to the White House. I'm all right with that. We were fine with that. We would not have been fine. And I can tell, I can only speak for my mother and their 5 children. That's all I can speak to. We would not be fine. And we were not fine the more deeply we got involved in this political process, because we saw it as corrupting and problematic and not answering the real questions that need some answers. The people of Lahaina need more than $700. They deserve much more than that. These people have been fighting for generations to hold on to their land. And this is what they get. I've not heard a Democrat talk about it. Shame on you for that. I've not heard a Republican talk. I've not heard Americans talking about it. Shame on all of us. Because Lahaina is each of us. Keep on living. Keep on living. You have a fire in your neighborhood and they won't let you out of it. Who's ever heard of anything like that, Dwight? They turn off the water hydrants. What? And this happens on the day that the children are home from school? What? They know, I mean, they looking for these. To turn off in the biggest outdoor siren system in the world. These children were incinerated. And you ought to be outraged. You ought to be outraged. Oh, we're going to try and find them. There's nothing to find. The neighborhood became a crematorium for them. I think about it. I started crying the other night. It broke my heart. I thought about those children trying to figure out what was going on while their parents went to work because their parents didn't have a choice. Mm-mm. So tonight, what do you expect of the Republicans aside from? Because everything's going to be sucked out the room when former President Trump surrenders tomorrow, I think.
Well, first, I think that for the most part, they'll position themselves for who's going to be the vice president. For the most part.
So you think that, like they're saying, this is the vice presidential sweepstakes?
That's what that, for the most part. I think one of them really think they have real chance. But for the most part, they resolve that they're not going to be the nominee. But if they position themselves the right way, they could be on the ticket. And I think that's going to frame the debate. And that's going to frame what they're willing to say and what they're unwilling to say, particularly about Trump, you know. And so I think we'll be surprised that there's going to be some new possibilities there. I think the brother,
Tim Scott,
Indian brother.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Well, it was a lot.
I think he's going to emerge.
Why do you think he's emerging at this time, Dwight? I mean, because they're calling him they're saying that he's a conspiracy theorist. He said, I don't believe the narrative about 9/11. He's challenging a lot of orthodoxies. Do you think that's part of it?
Yeah, and he's bright, and he's young, and he's charismatic, and he's articulate, and he's flexible. He's not the traditional blue collar Republican with the red tie. And he, he plays tennis like a pro. He raps like Eminem. I mean, he brings a lot to the table for a young guy. He brings a vitality to Republicans that they normally don't have. They're such a humdrum group of politicians by and large. And so I think that, he's new and he's fresh. And I think he's such a stark contrast to the Santos that he's going, and I think, and he's much sharper than the Santos.
Oh, yeah.
Where the Santos out, I think tonight, focus not on Trump, but on the
Barry, what's on your mind?
Hi, good morning, Santita. It's Barry. I've talked to you before. I got in trouble for talking about Biden's health and possible dementia.
You're not. You're not in trouble. And it was Larry on my run sheet. So please pardon me, Barry.
That's fine. Okay. I will be watching the Republican debate because at least, unlike the party I'm supposed to be affiliated with, which, as Dwight McKee was saying, I am consistently ashamed of their moral and spiritual deficiencies. But at least the Republicans are having a debate. The party I'm supposed to be affiliated with is not having a debate and is appointing someone president. So I give the Republicans credit for having a debate at all, because I don't get to participate in democracy by having a debate or a primary.
So it bothers you that the Democrats are not having a debate?
Well, yeah. Wouldn't you love to see Joe Biden and Dr. Cornel West on the same stage having a discussion?
And Robert Kennedy.
Wouldn't that be something for the American people to see?
And Robert Kennedy, even though technically Cornel West wouldn't be in that debate, I want to hear him talk to Robert Kennedy. I want to hear him talk to Marianne Williamson. I mean, I'm not discounting anybody.
Absolutely. That's true.
And I wish they'd open up the debate process, Barry, because you know what? I think Cornel West should be on the stage. And I don't think it should just be the Republicans and the Democrats. Let them all face off and tell me what they're going to do before October of 2024. How about that?
Well, if you've noticed, Santita, and I'm sure your guests probably have noticed, the Democratic Party is not exactly in favor of critical thinking or democracy at this time. So they certainly don't want anybody getting up against Joe Biden and questioning his foreign policy, which is not foreign policy. It's just sending weapons. It's just war. It's just mass murder. That's his foreign policy. They don't want anybody getting up there questioning that. They don't want to get him questioning him about his deficiencies and his inability to address the healthcare crisis and his unwillingness or disconcert about it. They don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about his history of incarceration and the fact that he incarcerated more black males than anybody in history and is responsible for a carceral state and ignores ICE and Border Patrol, is going to add 100,000 police to our force instead of doing criminal justice reform and police reform. They don't want to talk about that. On and on and on, Santita. I can get on the stage and talk about everything, and nobody wants to hear it because they just want to vote for Joe Biden. They want him to beat the Republican. They want him to beat Trump. That's all they care about is political expediency. They don't care about the issues.
And and so where are you in this political process? Because I still think that there's space to push the Democrats to have debates and to push them to be more than, oh, I'm supposed to be frightened of Trump. Because Barry, that's offensive to me. As an African American, as a Black American, as someone who's descended from people who survived slavery, you can't frighten. And there's no one else you could present to me. There's nothing else that you could even try to pull on me that'll frighten me. I am fear-proof in America. Okay.
I agree with Santita. There's nothing more that frightens me than what just happened in Hawaii and how we're quote unquote helping them. There's nothing more that frightens me than Joe Biden pulling out of Afghanistan and killing a family of 10 and trying to cover it up, committing a war crime, and nobody cares. Nothing that, frightens me more than him fist bumping, MBS, we are helping with a genocide against the poorest people in the world in Yemen and starving them to death. There's nothing more that can frighten me than Joe Biden's participation in the Iraq War and his promotion of the Iraq War and killing 500,000 Black and brown people and then acting like it's trivial, or his talking about the fact he had a fire in his kitchen and comparing that to the fire in Hawaii. There's nothing more than terrifying me than any of that. I have not experienced slavery, thank the Lord, and that's another horror. And of course, people who've experienced that, yeah, what is Trump? What is that? I mean, what kind of threat is that? They already got enough threats from, as Malcolm X said, you got the guys who show you their teeth all the time, the Republicans. Then you got the guys who show you their teeth after the elections. So I completely understand where you're coming from.
Well, you know what I want, Dwight? Well, stay with me, Barry, because we can talk during the break, but I certainly want Hannah and Arlene, I want them to speak to what you have to say, because Hannah said, as for the Ukraine, Putin stated his intentions to retake the Balkans, Poland, Czechoslovakia, et cetera. He wants to bring back the Soviet Empire. That's why we're helping Ukraine stop them. Arlene said, please, I have seen enough of RFK, Williamson, and West. They cannot win, only spoil. Where have you seen them, Arlene? They can't get on TV. They can't get on radio. They've been blocked. They've been censored. That ought to concern you. And we need to stop saying outright who cannot win. You don't know unless they're allowed to run. We've become quite autocratic, totalitarian. And if you allow it on the left, you'll allow it on the right. If you allow it on the right, you'll allow it on the right, on the left, and it's just going to snuff out America. How do you know Cornel West cannot win? Not one vote has been cast. How do you know Robert Kennedy can't win? How do you know Marianne Williamson can't win? You don't even know what their positions are, because they've not had a platform to say anything. You've had what the corporate media have said about each of them. And I don't know how you're now suddenly trusting people who have lied on you about your leaders, about the people who've advocated for you. They've lied on you about them. That's all that they have ever done. And now you trust them? Let's talk about Glenda Hatchett and what happened to her. My goodness. A sexual assault. Can you imagine you meet someone in a professional setting, you're a judge, he's sheriff, and he touches your breast instead of shaking your hand? That's what the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Laura Bell said, is it okay to pray for Trump? Absolutely. He's one of God's children. Yeah, you have an obligation to do that. Don't buy into all this crazy hate. All these people who are spiritually just not well.
Good morning, Santita.
Hey, I wanted to know if you wanted to try and get the judge on.
Hi.
She's already on. I am on. Producer. She's
on. Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I'm here.
Judge Hatchett, how are you?
Santita, how wonderful of you to ask and be concerned. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you. I am standing strong because I had to. And I was on my knees this morning, thanking God for just people who have been in the gap with me. And CK has certainly done that.
Oh, she's the best. She's the best. We've been talking about the Republican debates. I just wanted to give my prior guest, Dwight McKee, who you should meet. He's one of the founders of Operation Push more than 50 years ago. But we were talking about the debate, and he brought together a really an interesting point, because we've become so secularized in our politics that Dwight.
Oh yeah, I was listening. I was listening. No, I was listening.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a very fascinating conversation.
Yeah. And so, Dwight, you want to say hello to Judge Glenda Hatchett? Dwight, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
You were going out for a minute.
Okay, you want to say hello?
CK.
No, and I have Judge Glenda Hatchett on as well.
Good morning.
Judge Glenda Hatchett is here as well.
Good morning.
Dwight.
Good morning, Dwight. Good morning. Yeah, I used to watch you all the time. You had a great show.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And my grandmother.
You also got a great lawyer.
That's right.
You also got a great lawyer.
Oh, no question. I know. I knew who to call. There's no hesitation. That was who I called. And she has been standing in the gap with me. I mean, fearless.
And as people have said, they didn't know, he didn't understand who he was messing with. And so, Tina, your father was, sent an important message in the press conference that CK organized in front of the Capitol back in October. And so I don't take the support for granted, you all. Let me be very clear. I am grateful.
Well, you make us proud.
CK can argue your case in any language.
Well, that's a good thing.
Right. You're right about that. And if she has to throw in a few cuss words, she can do that too. You know what I'm saying?
Wait a minute. Giving you that element of surprise, I said Sable and St. John's will go straight to the back on you. You're like, wait a minute, what did she just say? What? Oh, Lord.
Well,
and if you could...
I'm laughing. I'm sorry.
Let me tell you, though, if looks could have killed in the courtroom Thursday, that man would have been cut in 10,000 pieces. I mean, she cut her eyes in him. Like, what? How dare you put your hands on my friend, my sister? And he was like, woo!
Let me tell you, I read stories because I couldn't even wait to get it out. I called Terry O'Neill, the former national president of NOW. She's going to be on shortly. When I called Terry, Terry said, "Oh my God, what?"
Yeah.
It was like, wait a minute, hold up, because when you went through it, and I don't want you to live through a nightmare again, but I certainly want you.
No, I'm okay today.
Okay.
I had to take a break yesterday morning. I'm okay today because this is my responsibility. Santita, if you could see the emails and the text messages, and CK, when we had time and he's download with you, of the women who have come, the calls I have gotten from not one, not two, but 3 women I know very well who told me their stories about having been raped. And they never...
We have 2 minutes.
From the father who reached out to me yesterday about his daughter having been raped, and he couldn't get her to follow through with the prosecution. And he was still grieving.
Yeah. I want you to walk us through it, because this is something. You make these calculations, I think, as a human being, as a woman, as a Black woman, then you see this is, a man, but a white man. My grandmothers came up in my mind, and my great grandmother.
Yes.
And, because, I constantly recount the story that my father's mother refused to watch Roots. And you couldn't mention it to her, Whew. Oh, please keep talking.
Well,
it's a lot.
Judge Hatchett, I actually have the sentencing order.
Back in 60.
In front of me, but the sentencing order does go further. It does go further. It says 12 months in the Cobb jail. It goes further. It says, of course, the $500 plus 12 months of probation. He cannot, of course, we know the judge said he cannot consume or do any drugs. These are the general conditions of his probation, and it goes on and on and on. And he has to submit, as you know, to a psychosexual evaluation. And it really, when you actually see it in print, it has a very different impact when you see the order.
I will be sure and read
it. It really does. Yes, and I'll send it to you. I sent it by email, but I knew yesterday was not a great day for you. So I will resend.
I needed to catch my breath yesterday.
Stand by.
I can't quite explain it, but honey, I am in the saddle today. I was looking forward to being with you all this morning. I am ready. I am ready. I am telling the story 1,000 times if I need to.
Stand by. I can't wait.
We can change the world. We can change the world. Change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. It is Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023. This is the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. My morning stars are on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please get on over there, everybody. Get on over there. We've got as our special guest on the Legal Q&A with CK segment of the show, Judge Glenda Hatchett. Now, you know we love watching her do those chops, but she did it with such class, so regal, so brilliant, such a brilliant legal mind, and just really took us back to, I would say, particularly as a Black woman, to our origins. Whether we were the maids or the teachers, wherever we were professionally, we always conducted ourselves in a way that lifted our people and that lifted all people. The people the white children we raised, their mothers wanted their children to be like us. So when you think of the insult that was leveled at this woman, the sexual assault, we need to talk about that today. Because this happens to women all the time. And the more vulnerable you are, the further down the food chain you go, the worse it is. But quite frankly, white, yellow, black, brown, and white. I mean, and it happens to all of us. And we need to talk about that. Imagine I'm shaking your hand and you reach for my breast. Are you serious? Call me at 773-763-9278. And one of the heroines of this story is her counsel, attorney C.K. Hoffler. So let's get to some of these headlines so we can get to this story. 773-763-9278. The first Republican presidential debate is in Milwaukee tonight, everybody. 8 candidates, including former Vice President Mike Pence, and, of course, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and the surprise number 2, someone who's nipping at the heels of DeSantis, who is number 2 by quite a bit of a distance behind Trump, but that's what it is. Vivek Ramaswamy. We'll see who's going to break out tonight. Will it be Nikki Haley? Will it be Tim Scott? Will it be Chris Christie? Who is going to break out of the pack? I hope everybody will watch. We're going to be talking about it tomorrow. A massive heat wave over the central U.S. could set hundreds of records, everybody. People in 16 states, including this one, and my brothers and sisters up in Minneapolis, St. Paul, we're dealing with excessive heat warnings today. In the Midwest, in the Plain States, and the South, some places might reach 130 degrees, everybody. Did you see this cable car that was stuck at 900 feet? 6 children, 2 adults. Thankfully, they were rescued, but my goodness, they got stuck there for several hours, everybody. A man who killed a woman over a pride flag wrote hateful posts. Why were they not caught before, everybody? And India will attempt on the moon today. They're aiming to become the first nation to land on the dark side of the moon. That is the South Pole, where pools of ice could provide water for long-term settlements. Certainly, we're wishing and we're praying for a great result, not just for India, but for the family of man, everybody. So let's talk about that today on the Santita Jackson Show. The Chicago, 98 degrees. Well, what's going on, everybody? I'm hearing music. I don't know where that's coming from, but okay. Chicago and Ohio City, 98 degrees, partly cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 96 degrees. Excessive heat warnings in both places. In Major League Baseball, Brewers 7, Twins 3, the Tigers 8, the Cubs 6, the Mariners 6, the White Sox 3, WNBA, the Lynx and the Sky 1. The Sky 102, the Storm 79, the Lynx 91, and the Wings 86. Could someone help me with understand what's going on with this music here? Okay. CK, are you there?
I'm here, Santita. I hear the music.
I hear the music too. I'm just trying to find out what's happening here. Okay. I love it. Sounds nice, but hold on
it's
one second.
It's one of your guests. I'm not sure which one.
Okay. One of our guests has music playing. So why don't you mute everybody, Henry? Everybody except the judge and everybody except C.K. Hoffler. Just mute everybody.
Yeah, I can hear the music as well.
Let's mute everyone but Judge Hatchett. And okay, can you mute everybody? Because
We're doing that right now.
Okay, very good. Whoa. I mean, I love the music, but we can't hear anybody else. Okay, fantastic.
There we go.
It's
Attorney Patillo.
I appreciate it. I tell you, this story itself, well, I was like, it's groovy music. Yeah, I love it. But I can't hear anything else. When I first read about this story, it was heartbreaking because I remember meeting Judge Hatchett some years ago. And you're always looking for people who can model professionalism, but also elegance, class. No matter where Black women in particular have served, whatever our particular station in the United States of America, even though Black men have never had a right that a white man was bound to respect, Black women have never had virtue that white men were bound to respect either. Rosa Parks was known all over the state of Alabama. She was famous before the 1955 stance on the bus, if you will, because she would investigate the rapes of Black women. The unprosecuted rapes of Black women. That's what happened. She said every time she saw herself in the mirror, that's what she saw, which is essentially what my own father's mother said, which is why she wouldn't look at Roots. And so when I see someone like Judge Hatchett, who just is, even if she were someone who had been spiritually broken, she did not deserve what happened to her. And spiritual brokenness can manifest itself in all kinds of ways. No one deserves to have happened to them what happened to her. C.K. Hoffler, I can't imagine. I'm about to shake your hand and you try to reach for my breast. Girl?
Well, Santita, it is really so much worse than that. First of all, thank you this morning, Santita, for giving us the space to be able to talk about this very important issue. This is an issue, and to hear from the victim, our celebrated, iconic Judge Glenda Hatchett. But I have to tell you, I've known Judge Hatchett for a minute, as they say. She is, just as you said, the personification of class, brilliance, excellence, but what you all may not realize is that her entire life she's been a fierce advocate for the voiceless. Before she was a judge, after being a judge, what we see on TV is absolutely a stellar, brilliant, glamorous, classy, magnificent woman who brings it every single day, who's real. But I'm here to tell you all about that other person, that advocate, the person who fights and has always fought for people who have no voice. She hails on a college level from Mount Holyoke. She went to a women's college. She understood early on the importance of standing in the cut and being that advocate. Her life is a personification of advocacy. So when she called me about 18 months ago and this is before it really hit the press, it was not public, and told me what happened to her, and Judge Hatchett, I never told you this, but my heart almost stopped. At this stage, or at any stage in any woman's life, or men who are victims of sexual battery and sexual abuse, that this would happen, that this could happen. And Santita, I gotta say, one of the first people who stood up in solidarity of Judge Glenda Hatchett was your father, Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr. And we had a press conference in October of 2022 in front of the governor's office demanding that he take action against the sheriff, Christopher Charles Cootie, a defendant, a convicted defendant now. Take action against him, remove him, do something. And the governor did nothing. We protested, a group of us, all of us lawyers in our own right, most of us lawyers, some community activists, civil rights leaders, religious leaders stood in support of Judge Hatchett, who, by the way, did not speak to the press. She maintained her silence, her integrity, because she did not want to impact the process of justice. And I will tell you, this was justice delayed. We saw in the criminal justice system, justice delayed, which is open to a lot of manipulations. But I'm going to let Judge Hatchett speak to that, because there's no more compelling voice of what she said. And finally, before I bring on this magnificent woman, I want to say that her victim, when you have a criminal case, many people know this, and you are a victim, you are allowed to give, in all jurisdictions, a victim impact statement, whether it's state court or federal court, a victim impact statement. And her victim impact statement was so powerful, and she spoke through tears almost the entire time, Santita, and to our wonderful guest. It was so, again, that feeling of hardly being able to breathe, that's how I felt sitting there listening to her. And it is really, truly an honor for me to represent Judge Hatchett. And the fight's not over, and you all just need to understand that. But the judge said what we knew, for those of us who know her, knew what she was going to do. The judge said, I hope, and I'm paraphrasing, you will lend your voice to and share with people what has happened and be an advocate for those people who have no voice.
Absolutely. We need to know what happened.
And, absolutely. So now we're going to, that was just a long introduction of a woman who needs no introduction.
That's very important. But, I think you're right, CK, in that walking us through what happened, it helps you to, it makes you be there, but it also helps you to, it's going to help somebody who's dealing with this on their job right now, because blue collar, white collar, this is what we deal with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we want to call up Judge Hatchett, Glenda Hatchett, my sister, my friend, my client, to tell us, and I know that it's tough, again, I was there with you, tell us what happened and share with this audience.
Absolutely. First of all, TK, thank you for those kind words. I mean, you have really stood firmly with me on this, and I will be forever grateful. Santita, thank you so much for having me this morning. I have to be strong. This is my responsibility, and I'm going to tell you everything that happened. I don't know how to change that meaning thing, but anyway, everything that happened to me in great detail, because it is important for you and your audience to understand the gravity of this situation. I was the guest of retired Sheriff Thomas Brown at an informal reception at the Georgia Sheriff's Association, where there were sheriffs from all over the state. I was greeted warmly. People were excited to see me. Oh, Judge Hatchett, I've always admired you. I mean, it went on and on and on. There was such admiration for me in that room. People wanted to take pictures. I want to call my wife. Wait till I tell my children, my mother. That was the feeling in that room. And so to stand at a table, now you have to visualize this. I'm at a table that is the height that you stand up at, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. A rectangular table. I am at the end on the left side. The defendant, I'm going to continue to call him the defendant, the convicted defendant, walks up uninvited to the short end of the table right at the corner where I am standing. Thomas Brown, who is the ultimate professional and gentleman, turns around and says, I am Thomas Brown. I'm the retired sheriff in DeKalb County. And because he didn't know him, and introduced himself, and then said, and this is Judge Glenda Hatchett. Thomas then turns back around and continues his conversation. I am being gracious, and I said, he told me he was from Bleckley County, and I said, my family is from Georgia, from Troup County, but I don't know where that is. He then takes his index finger and points in the middle of my chest like a little jab and says, in the heart of Georgia. I did not take offense to that. But then he then reaches for my breast, my left breast, grabs it, squeezes it, rubs it round and round in the heart of Georgia. I was so angry with myself later that I didn't slap him, that I didn't kick him. But I have to tell you, my sister, on your audience this morning, I was frozen. I was frozen. I was absolutely frozen. Thomas then turns around, sees what's happening, and literally has to take his hand off my breast and push him away from me. There were two women who were standing at the table. Zella actually was the one who saw what was happening, got Thomas's attention, turned around. Zella and Laura literally grabbed my things quickly and then got me out of this room. And I was like, whoa. I was like, whoa. I mean, it's just like, kind of like, this didn't really happen to me. And so I was like, I'm good. I'm fine. I went home. I thought I was fine. And I'm going to be very candid with your audience this morning because this is important. You know, I see myself as a strong Black woman. You know, I've been dealing with victims and, you know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and really thousands over the years through my courtroom, through my work outside of the court of victims. You know, and I'm always the one who is seeking justice and making sure that people are treated fairly in my courtroom and advocating for children and women and families and men even beyond my courtroom. And so I'm like, I got this. I'm good. I went home. And then I went back to a dinner the next night because my attitude was, I'm not going to let this man put me into the dark, into hiding. I went out. Well, next morning I pressed charges. So everybody at the dinner is concerned. Oh my God, Judge, we heard what happened, blah, blah, blah. I'm good. I'm good. I went home Wednesday night. I'm good. No, I don't need anybody to try. I'm good. Thursday morning, and this is what I want you to hear. Thursday morning, I could not get out of bed. I was crying uncontrollably. I could not get out of bed. My assistant, Naima Rashad, been with me some 12 years. At that time, was like, oh my God. You know, she's on the phone checking on me. I could barely talk to her. She had never seen me like that. And you know, and CK knows, and some of your audience, so I have dealt with major tragedies in my life, including the unnecessary death of my daughter in 2016 after giving birth. And that's a whole nother conversation I hope we'll have another day about Black women and maternal death.
Absolutely.
I have seen some of the most tragic situations that you can imagine. And here I am, I couldn't even get out of bed to go get something to eat in the kitchen. By 6 o'clock that evening, I am on the phone with this amazing woman therapist, sister therapist, Dr. Susan May. And so I've been in therapy. And I want to say that clearly because there is sometimes stigma among us about being in therapy. I'm in therapy. Let me be real clear. I am in therapy. Had a session with her Sunday night before I went to court Monday morning. And as strong as I know that I am, this reduced me to my knees. I'm a praying woman. I have faith. God has shown up for me too many times in my life for me to ever doubt him. But I will tell you, that moment when that man violated me, that disgusting human being violated me, that at that moment, I felt powerless. And I have never felt that kind of powerlessness in my life. And to have someone rip that from you in such a horrific way and have you feel powerless that you can't do anything was something that I had never experienced. I've never been a victim. I've always been on the other side of this equation. I don't want to be the poster child. I don't. I really don't for this issue. I don't want to be the poster. I guess I should say poster woman. But this is now my responsibility to talk about this. And I thank you for allowing me this time and this space to have this conversation. Let me also say, and CK, I've got to get you up to date. I got a long letter yesterday, but by email, of a woman who told me about her encounter with this defendant and that she never reported it. And she said, when I saw you Monday, I felt like you were standing up for me. So the emails, the text messages I have gotten from women across this nation saying, I have been violated. Mm-hmm. One woman who I know well told me she cried throughout the entire press conference because she had been raped. 3 women have told me that in less than 24 hours, their stories, women I know very well, who all said, you stood up for us. You were our voice because we never did. And so if this is on me, I guess God said, okay, Glenda, you gotta, you can't go into the shadows. Yes, I pressed charges. Yes, I knew that this would become very public. Yes, I knew that this would be painful. But Thomas Brown said to me Monday when we were leaving court, he said, Glenda, you would have always regretted it had you not done what you've done. And I believe that to be true.
Well, you know what? And you've called together the village this morning. We've got the former president of NOW, national president, Attorney Terry O'Neill, Attorney Erin Connolly, who's got her own story, Attorney Darrell Jones from the Transformative Justice Coalition, Attorney Robert Patillo, your radio mate from WAOK, CK Hoffler, back with more of legal Q&A with CK on the Santita Jackson Show, talking with Judge Glenda Hatchett, this warrior. Back in just a minute. Ooh. Oh my gosh. But this was what the fact that you froze. Terry O'Neill, Attorney O'Neill?
Yes. Hi, good morning.
This was, I don't know if you know Attorney Terry O'Neill. She's the former national president of NOW. She's a brilliant civil rights attorney. She talked about that. And this
I haven't had the pleasure.
Oh, well, Judge Glenda Hatchett, this is your sister beloved, Terry O'Neill, and your sister beloved, Attorney Erin Connolly, and Attorney, your brother beloved, Attorney Darrell Jones, Attorney Robert Patillo. But I wanted to pivot you to Attorney Terry O'Neill now, because Terry, you talked about this.
Okay.
First, CK, she said, this is what we do. You freeze people, you freeze. Right, Terry?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And it's such an honor to meet you, even over the phone, Judge Jack Hackett.
Thank you. Likewise.
And I'm so grateful to you for, for your willing think of what is it, the fight or flight response. That's actually not accurate. It's a fight or freeze response. And so in sexual assault cases, very often juries, to this day, it's 21st century, and juries who are told that a woman froze in the moment don't believe that she was even sexually assaulted. So it's a huge problem, and I think that you are coming forward. You are a woman of extraordinary accomplishment, of power, and here's this man who thinks he can do this to you because A, you're female, and B, you're African American.
Let's be clear. Sister Attorney, let me just interject. This is a very important point. I was the only Black woman in the room.
Oh, boy.
There you go. Yes. Yes.
Only.
Right?
Let's be very clear. I was the only Black woman in the room. He comes to me at my table uninvited. I am being
uninvited. Yeah.
I mean, which already puts you on alert. Okay. I mean, and I'm keeping it 100. I don't have a problem with anyone. I love everybody. But the history of Black women in this country, there's some places you don't go. I know I went to Howard University and I spent a lot of time in Georgetown. That's where I would shop, go have something to eat. My brother's school was up the street from there. So I spent time in Georgetown.
Back in 60.
And I'm going to tell you something. Our cutoff time was 10 o'clock on Saturday night because the white boys were getting drunk and you did not want a problem.
Yeah. Well, I'll
Yeah.
tell you, that's interesting you put that out because.
Oh, well, hold on. We got about 30 seconds.
Okay.
Because this is an element. And CK, you got the text, right?
Yes, I'm looking at it now.
Okay. So, you can line up the calls. I mean, you can line up the speakers as you wish, but I think we should pivot to Attorney O'Neill because she's bringing up some real points. I mean, and it matters in this context. You have two white women on the panel here. Attorney Erin Connolly, who experienced sexual assault, and Attorney Terry O'Neill. So I just think it's important. So CK, I'm going to come right to you and we can pick up where Terry. Oh gosh, I've got a little great headache now, but it's okay.
Terry, I will tell you that my therapist told me exactly what you said because I was feeling sick.
Change the world, change the world.
I'm so glad you're in therapy.
We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
And hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, legal Q&A with CK Hoffler, everybody. She is counsel to Judge Glenda Hatchett. And I think Robert just said no one says hush like Judge Hatchett does. And never had to utter an expletive. And we can all go there, but Jimmy, the way you would look at people and just go, really? My grandmother loved you, by the way, God rest her soul. Both of them. Well, because you were very, she's such a lady. I love it. And, Black women, particularly those of us from the South, but Black women know how to read you. I'm going to give you a complete read. They'll become a librarian on you in a minute. Just, it's a look that you would give people that you just go, oh, I love this. I love it. It reminds me of Mama. But Attorney CK Hoffler, we've been having this conversation with the former national president of NOW, Attorney Terry O'Neill. Why don't you pick up where we've been talking, CK?
Absolutely, and I apologize, I'm at the airport. But we do want to hear from the former president of NOW and Terry O'Neill, who has been, on our show so many times, Santita, because of the breadth of her experience and what she brings to this dialogue as an incredible civil rights lawyer. So, Attorney O'Neill?
Yes. Yeah. Hey, good morning. And like I said, I think the most powerful thing is being done right now by Judge Hackett for women. You're going to, I believe you're going to see people calling into the show, writing into Judge Hackett. This happened to me. This is what happened to me when this was done to me. And it runs the gamut of sexual assault. Right. It's and what I have heard women say, and I will tell you, I have experienced myself, when you have this kind of assault that happens, it's extremely distracting. This happens in the workplace, and a woman has to show up at work day after day after day with this guy that did something. It's not, not a full-on sexual assault, a sexual assault of the type that this sheriff did, right? To you, Judge Hackett, in one sense, it's a momentary thing, and in the other sense, it's absolutely debilitating. It throws you off your game. You find yourself not able to concentrate on your work, the stuff you're supposed to be doing. It's very deeply impacting. And then you start to think, what's wrong with me that I'm making a big deal out of this? Because other people will tell you, don't make such a big deal out of it, right? And so, yes, it is a big deal. And yes, this man needed to be prosecuted because there has to be actual consequences and accountability for what he did. And that's, in many ways, I think it's the aftermath of the attack that is so important and that our society gets so wrong for most women. So that's why I'm feeling incredibly grateful to the judge and to you, CK, for pursuing this thing.
Well, and I have to say, CK, Judge Hatchett, I had to put the racial element in it because as Black women, you can't help but do that. If you walk up and down the street in the United States of America, we look like every iteration of human being because of the violations that we experienced on this soil. So when you're the only Black woman in the room, which already puts you on guard, you have to be very Diane Carroll to keep these men in their place. You have to do that with all men. But with white men, you have to walk an extra mile because all you have to do is leave the United States and you will hear, Judge Hatchett, they'll call you, oh, soul sister. Let me give you this quick story to show you in furtherance of your point. 1964, imagine, the two biggest groups in the world are the Beatles and the Supremes. They are battling each other on the American pop charts for number one for the better part of 2 years, and the Supremes were winning. So someone, when the Supremes were overseas, said it would be okay, and Mary Wilson told me this story. I never will forget it. And she said, and Santita, we were in our furs, and and Diana Ross's mother, Miss Ernestine, was their escort. So she was not going to have any foolishness. That was the day when we still had chaperones. And when they got into the room, when they went up to the room to see the four Beatles, you know what they were doing? They were undressed and high and ready to have a good time with the Black girls.
Lord.
So they left. So they said, oh, no, we didn't come here for that. That's been our history. So I can only imagine. There's so many layers to this, to me, for you, Judge Hatchett.
Yes, there are.
I don't know. CK, I mean, I wanted to, we have some other people who want to weigh in. CK, I know CK's walking through the airport too, to be fair.
But I'm in a place where it's a little bit more quiet. Okay. And thank you all for your patience. But I did want to, Santita, Judge Hatchett's story is so powerful and she speaks for so many. But our sister, we call Erin Connolly our sister from another mother, Judge Hatchett. She's an incredible political strategist, lawyer extraordinaire, mother. And to hear that she has something to share with us also that's similar breaks my heart. But Erin Connolly, my sister from another mother, what say you about that?
Oh, well, thank you, CK. And Judge Hatchett, I want to say I've been following this case from the beginning. And it of course, it's the beautiful and brilliant CK Hoffler who is in this fight with you. And what I said to Santita was, I wish I had women like both of you during the time in my life when I was recovering mentally and physically from a particularly violent sexual assault in college. And I held that story in my heart, in my brain, in my body for over 20 years before I was able to even speak about it to another person. If I had brilliant, brave women like you, who I could see with my own eyes standing up for accountability, even from a sheriff, a person of authority in this way, I think I could have maybe had the strength to either get help sooner or to tell my own story and try to find some accountability for the person that did this to me. And I want to thank both of you for living that example and showing the world what needs to happen for the abusers that lurk everywhere in our society and prey upon women of all walks of life. And what I think this demonstrates is that no one is safe from this type of behavior, that there is an entitlement of many males in this world. And I don't want to paint a brush that everyone behaves like this, because that's certainly not true. But as we're having conversations with our young women who are heading to university, who are heading back to school about what consent looks like, about what appropriate behavior looks like, about having friends in your corner that aren't going to leave you alone, that are going to listen to you and hold space for you to tell your truth and feel safe, have a place to go after something like this happens, because your body, your brain, your heart will be in fight, flight, freeze all at the same time. And this type of case, so publicly and so bravely, really will help save the lives of women in this country. So I just really want to thank both of you, and thank Santita for having this difficult conversation. This is not something I like to talk about, but it's a part of my life that is true. And it's a place where I've found great healing and strength, but it also takes a long time to get over this. So I am praying for all of the women, but especially you, Judge Hatcha. Thank you for the bravery that you've exhibited throughout this. It's profound and important, and you are just a wonderful example of what we need, matriarchs in our society, to stand up for themselves and for the rest.
Amen.
Let me just say to you, thank you. Thank you, my sister. Thank you, because you have given voice to this. It takes a lot of courage for you to say what you just said. And in that is not only your healing, but it is healing for so many women. I have had countless. I think we were off the air when I was sharing this with GK and Santita this morning. There have been so many women who have reached out to me with their stories, but also men. Yes. There was a father who reached out to me yesterday by text, who I know. And he was talking about the pain of having his daughter go through this. But she did not have, and understandably, she did not want to go through it, and she did not prosecute. And he was telling me about his own experience as a father. And so this comes in different ways. You know, 3 people since Monday who I know extremely well have told me their stories. These are women I have known and know very well. 2 of whom have been raped. 1 was able to get away. You know, the pain that so many women are carrying. People who are strangers reaching out to me on social media and other means and calling my law firm and leaving messages that they cried, just cried during my press conference. And if you haven't seen that press conference and clips from me being in court, CK, we've got to figure out how to make that public. Because
we will definitely
people
do that.
Have said that was so therapeutic for them to be able to hear that. And they felt, in one woman's this long letter I got yesterday, who had been sexually abused by this defendant. She wrote me a long letter and sent it to me by email. She looked up and Googled how to get me and said, I did not have the strength. And for the first time in my life now, I feel vindicated through you. And so thank you for sharing that. And I cannot say to you, my sister, Tina, thank you for giving us this space to have this important conversation this morning.
That's what it's for. I mean, because the fact is, we empower one another. Well, one of the things, there's something saying that we have from the church, can I get a witness? More than anything,
Yes.
we the power is within you, but we don't feel that we have a witness. We're not the support system for each other, the support systems that we ought to be.
Yeah.
And we have to create something else so that your girlfriends feel, and so that Terry Crews, a black male actor in Hollywood, who was violated in front of his wife by one of these big Hollywood agents. If you don't come my way, he was grabbing at this man's genitals. He said, I didn't feel I could talk about it. I mean, but in this particular case, and I'm going to stay, I want to stay here on this. The sense of violation is so great because there's so many calculations. And I know we've got Attorney Darrell Jones with us, and then we've got Attorney Robert Patillo, and I do want them to say something. But I mean, in that moment, but CK, like Judge Hatchett, when you walk in the room and you're the only black woman there, you're not assuming that people are going to be unkind to you. You're not. I mean, it's a professional setting, but you still have on that armor, because you just got to be sure. You got to be careful. You got to protect yourself. That's what your mama taught you to do.
Yeah.
And then
I let my guard down. And that's what my assistant said. She said, Judge, I'm surprised you let him get that close to you. But because I had been greeted so warmly all night, I didn't feel at all that I was not in a safe space. But you're absolutely right. I let my guard down.
Well, no, it was, you were in a safe space, which is where you let your guard down. And or when you because
I'm with a man standing next to me who's 6'3", and it doesn't take any jump off of anybody. And so I don't know. It was unbelievable. I mean, it just was unbelievable.
What got you out of bed?
I will say this.
Oh, no. I wanted to, when you couldn't get out of bed, what got you out of bed?
God, honestly, and the support of Naima, been my assistant at that time for 12 years. She's like a daughter to me. And then immediately getting a therapy session at 6:00 that night. My play little sister, was on the phone initially for the first few minutes of that therapy session because I didn't have the strength to keep repeating the story at that point. And so she got on the phone so she could hear what I said to Dr. May because she knows Susan. And then she was going to get off the phone. And I said, no, stay on the phone. I need you. Mm-hmm. And so it has been God. And I said to my pastor Sunday morning, who asked the church to pray for me going into court Monday, Pastor Pollard, Greg Pollard, he asked the church to pray. And what I said to Pastor was, I know God's got me. I have seen him do it too many times to ever doubt it. And so it is, the prayer, the meditation, the therapy, the support and love. CK was with me in court. My ride or die friends, Jay Richardson, Thomas Brown was there. I mean, I have been so surrounded by so much support. And what I've said is, what about the victims who don't have what I have?
Mm. Attorney Darrell.
I know other people want to talk. So I'll be quiet.
No. A pregnant pause means there's something great that's being gestated here. Attorney Darrell Jones, your thoughts.
Santita, Judge Hatchett is to be just commended so greatly for the courage that she has displayed in coming forward. It's one thing to experience trauma, to have to be forced into therapy, the psychological scars that's been imposed upon her by this guy. It's a lot to overcome. And for a lot of people, they just take it and they keep it within themselves and they try to deal with it personally because it's such a problem. But what's done is that she's taken the trauma that she's experienced and she's public with it so that other people that are experiencing it can see her strength, can see what it is that she has gone through and how she is handling it. And it will encourage somebody somewhere that hasn't yet gone through it or has gone through it to take the steps that she is now taking so they can see what's going to happen, what can happen, that you can deal with this and push through this. It will forever be a part of her. It will forever be a scar that's going to be there. But she is really laying the groundwork about how to deal with this type of trauma. It's horrible. And I wrote down when she said that, that she let her guard down. She shouldn't have to have a guard up. And that's the whole thing. And that, it's just so incredible, Santita, and just hats off to all that she's done, and we continue to pray for her and push for her and keep her uplifted. And again, she's holding the flame for some little girl that's watching what's going on and doesn't necessarily understand it all, but may go through this experience and will say, "I remember hearing about this Judge Hatchett and what she did. I can get through this too."
Amen. Robert?
Santita,
yes.
If I could add, I just want to add one thing before Robert, to Judge Hatchett. I have 2 clients in the Atlanta metropolitan area who were sexually assaulted at an elite private school by a football player, young African-American girls. And so you are showing them how to do this, how to survive that experience. Their cases in litigation. They were 15 years old. So I also want to just put that in your network because right now we have examples of young girls who have the courage to come forward.
Amen. Well, you know what, Levy, because we have like 4 minutes left in the segment. Robert Patillo, very quickly, what do you have to say? Because I want Judge Hatchett to close us out. And we're going to stay on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel just for a few minutes to get fuller closing statements. But Attorney Robert Patillo, is he there? Well, let me give it to you. Judge Hatchett, what do you want us to know? I mean, because when I've read many articles about this, and one of the things that you said that just broke my heart, you said, "I never felt so helpless."
Right.
And, just made me think of the song, "Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child." Oh my gosh. Oh boy. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a musician. I think in music. But,
yes, I do. You are.
But
and I've heard you.
But I'm saying, but that's what it took me there. The sentiment.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, where did and even I hear in this, okay, what did I do wrong? We're always questioning ourselves.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at him first.
Yeah, I felt guilty that I didn't. First of all, I felt guilty. I didn't slap him. I was like, why didn't I kick him? Why didn't I slap him? What the heck? That's not what I said, but heck is what I'll say.
No, not you. Oh, please.
Listen, let me tell you. I had to tell people, add a little levity to this conversation this morning. I have to tell people from time to time, don't get it twisted just because I have these titles and these letters behind my name. I grew up in Dixie Hills in Atlanta, Georgia, right? And I can go there. But in all very serious note, I really want people to know that I am not painting men with a broad brush.
Sure.
This was a despicable being, but there are men who are righteous and wonderful. And Thomas Brown really is at the top of that list because he has been solid. I mean, I'm so proud of him. As CK knows, President Biden appointed him last fall. He's the new U.S. Marshal in Northern District. And you know what's going on in the Northern District of Georgia with all the craziness that's going on. Let me also say to my mentee, Bonnie Willis, we got to keep her prayed up. That's not on the subject we're talking about right now, but we got to keep her prayed up because she is doing nothing but extraordinary work. And she has shared some of the vile threats against her, and it is horrific. But I will say that there have been so much support for me in so many ways. But I also raised the question, what if I were not Judge Hatchett? Right? And that is, and I was very disappointed. I'm going to put it out here. And people say, oh, she's a woman of color. You shouldn't criticize her. The solicitor in Cobb County, in my opinion, did a horrible job in not staying on top of this and allowing the system to be manipulated by the defense attorney. So that, be clear, he's been on the payroll every day with no suspension by the governor, which is absolutely a whole nother conversation that I spoke to in the press conference. He's been allowed to stay, and it was like he was supposed to plead last September, the second week in September. It is now here August. And if I hadn't raised the hell that I raised in June, this would still be going on. And so he's had no consequences until his resignation Monday morning, effective Monday morning. So I say all that to say that I hope that my story will give strength to others. I will be very clear to keep posting on my social media, my law firm social media, SMS trials. We are going to have to keep this conversation going. And to the extent that I can be of support to other people, that is what I'm going to do. My mother died in 2020. I can't imagine what she would be going through if she were here with me. I think about my grandmothers, these amazing women. How broken-hearted they would be to see me going through this. But because of them and a whole lot of women folk and men folk whose shoulders I stand on, I can stand.
Well,
and I do thank God.
And they're rejoicing from heaven because they saw the strength that they poured into you made manifest. Stay right here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Happy birthday, Eric. Sending you much love. Getting closing thoughts. But you got to come to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Love you, everybody. Judge Hatchett, did anyone else in the room see this? Did anyone else in the room react?
Yes. Thomas literally had to intervene, who is now U.S. Marshal Brown, had to intervene. There were two women standing across the table on the other side of the table. Defendant's good buddy, who was, by the way, president of the Georgia Sheriff's Association, said, I didn't see nothing. And then the person that Thomas was talking to on the other end of the table immediately left. You know, just kind of, I
did not stand in defense of you,
but there
just
were,
left.
Yeah, just left. And so there were 3 eyewitnesses in addition to my testimony. And if he had gone to trial next Monday and Tuesday, you know, I mean, what would he have said? You've got a judge, you've got a U.S. Marshal, you've got 2 women who are executives at this company who were at the reception. I mean, it was like, what in the world? So this is not a he say, she say matter. It's not. It's not like it happened in a parking lot or a dark alley and I come out and say he did it and he says he didn't. He did it openly right there. And, you know, which suggests to me that, you know, this is a pattern.
Oh, yeah.
And I think some stuff is going to come out. I think I'm going to get more letters like the one I got yesterday about him.
Oh, the fact that he was so public lets me know this is his standard operating procedure.
Let me tell you, then he said when Thomas demanded a meeting the next morning with the president who was there at the table, came with him to the table, and the executive director of the Georgia Sheriff's Association, he said he didn't do it. Well, you don't want to cross Thomas Brown. I mean, you do not want to cross him. And so Thomas was the one who pushed it because the Georgia Association has a responsibility to document it and send it to the governor. It took until from January until July before they ever got the letters, only because Thomas kept demanding that they do it. And when the letters went to the governor did nothing. CK organized this amazing demonstration and press conference in front of the Capitol last October. His response was, I can't do anything because he wasn't on duty. Come on. Please, help me here.
What?
He's not on duty. He is the sheriff. He's not a deputy sheriff. He is the sheriff. Then the story changed that he was drunk and didn't remember. Then the story changed to after he was charged. Well, first of all, let's be clear. He left the country. He went on a quote unquote church missionary trip somewhere in South America. I forgot where.
What?
Right? So he couldn't be found. He couldn't be found, girl. He was gone.
You went on a church trip?
Yeah, church missionary trip. You hear me? Missionary trip. He left the country immediately. Nobody could find him because he was out of the country. So investigation. And then he was charged. And then he had to surrender. He was let out. They never put him in jail per se. He was booked, blah, 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 and let out on his own accord. So he then had his lawyer call the prosecutor to ask if I would. Excuse me. Wait a minute. Let me back up. He wanted to offer an apology. But the thing is, it was an exchange basically for me agreeing to, he wanted to apologize and ask if I would drop the charges. Of course not. Of course not. And people asked me, was I concerned that he didn't apologize to me in court Monday? And my answer was, it doesn't matter. His apology at this point means nothing. And the judge asked him 3 different times in the course of the hearing, is there anything you wish to say? He then asked again. He asked the 3rd time. I was on the front row of the court. And if you look at the clips, and CK will get them to you, clips from different parts of that hearing, I was on the front row. He could have turned around and apologized. He did not. But the good news is the judge denied first offender treatment, which meant that after he did his 12 months probation, his record would be cleared. The judge said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. The circumstances of this case demand that I deny that and that this will be on your record forever. I want to do flips in the courtroom.
Oh my gosh! Absolutely.
Yes, Judge Bowers is, a white judge in Cobb County. He was very clear that this was a situation that demanded that he do what he did, and I could not have been happier.
But like you, as you asserted, I wouldn't. I mean, CK, I wouldn't indict all white people with this. This is about what's decent and what's indecent.
Absolutely. And Santita, my flight's getting ready to take off.
Okay.
So I'm going to say, thank you so much, Judge Hatchett. I will be in touch when I land. Thank you, Santita, as well. And I will love you all. And to my sister, Erin Connolly, to Daddy Dwight McKee, to Robert Patillo, Attorney Robert Patillo, and to Attorney Daryl Jones from Transformative Justice Coalition. Thank you for all of the comments that you've made today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, CK,
Travel
for this.
Travel safely.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Dwight, didn't know you were still there. What do you say about this?
Well, a couple of things. One, if they would do that with Judge Hatchett's profile, it is just an absolute level of contempt for, it's almost like something from out of Annabelle that a person would feel, because he was a sheriff, to feel right he has the right to harass a woman not just a woman of her stature, but any woman, particularly in the presence of other people, it's so much gumption. And I'm so glad that she fought the fight and didn't walk away or didn't hallucinate, self-hallucinate and convince herself that what happened really didn't happen. Because I think sometimes they depend upon that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's almost like Trump's statement of when you have certain status, if you're a white man with certain status, then you just have an inherent right to violate women. It's just so antiquated their thinking is. But I'm glad she fought the good fight, and I'm glad that CK understood the process well enough to know that you just wasn't going to win in the courts. You had to bring some political pressure to bear, and she had the press conferences and the public pressure, so to make sure that the judge, the judicial system, did the right thing in this. So I can only admire all of them, both of them, and hold them up as role models for other women who don't have as much stature but can't have as much fight.
You know, did you ever?
I appreciate that so much.
You deserve it all, because this violation, it's international. I was watching a documentary on Whitney Houston, "Can I Be Me?" and she was in France. This is at the height of her fame, and she never really flickered. I mean, she was just a once in a lifetime talent and once in a lifetime career. And he's a white actor that I recognize, French, and he said, "I want to F you," and the audience cracked up. And he said, and he turned to her again and he said that, but he said the whole word. And you could see she was taken aback. But it's in those moments you have to make so many calculations, Judge Hatchett. And that's why as you talked about this, my heart just broke. I mean, I just thought about my grandma Helen. I thought about my great grandmother Tibby. I thought about my grandmother and Helen and how angry she was about Roots. She said, "Do you know why we look as we do? Are you serious? You think I'm going to talk about that?" And oh my gosh, and no, we don't do that. And I thought about my own mother's mother, who, when we were funeralizing her, my mother said, Gertrude doesn't want an open casket. And my father said, the casket needs to be open for all of us. Her grandchildren are coming. We rarely get together. Jackie, but my parents have been together more than 60 years, so that's between them. Ultimately, the casket was open, but Judge Hatchett, she didn't want it open because she said, "I don't want anyone to ever look down on me again."
Woo! Mercy. Oh, that story will always stick with me. I will always remember that.
And, when she said that, I looked at my father, I said, well, I mean, what are we supposed to do? And I thought of you. I thought of that story, and I thought of those stories when I read that. I said, I bet you she was the only Black woman in that room. She was sitting and she was standing there trying to calculate, what do I do? How do I, because there's another Black girl, there's a Black woman who's got to come behind me. I got to figure out, because she's got to get along with these people. And, my practice is over here, but there's some Black women who are in this space who are going to need this man and who are going to need the people who support him. If I come down on him, how am I going to come down? If I come down on him, how's that going to impact them? And I just thought about all of that. And, and it just made me, even emotional now, because we've absorbed so much. So much.
Or the French actor that kissed Halle Berry in the mouth during an awards presentation.
In front of her husband. That was Adrian Brody. In front of her husband.
Now
kissed her on the mouth.
Now,
oh gosh.
That's when you should have seen somebody get up and smack somebody else in the mouth. When you should have seen right there that Chris Rock situation.
Oh yeah.
I mean, how much gumption is that? How much presumption is that? Kissed her in the mouth in front of her husband on an award ceremony, and she, as you said, didn't quite know how to respond to it. She wanted to respond, but she was trying to be measured in that.
Well, and she and her husband just sat there on the front row, and the camera went right to him. They knew what to do. And I saw this black man. She was married to Eric Benet at the time. And I saw him. I saw the rage. And so when their marriage broke up, and only heaven knows what happens between two people. And I heard Oprah really going in on Eric Benet. I said, wait, sis, hold on. Do you remember when this man kissed his wife on the mouth, which implied so much? And he was to infer so much because of Hollywood and their practices out there. Are you serious? At some point,
I was actually in the audience. I was actually in the audience when that happened.
Okay, talk to me.
I was actually there. Yeah, I was just like, what?
So there is, but there's a lot for us to unpack about this story, and you've got to come back and talk about this. You've got to, because just going forward, what do you advise women to do?
You're asking me?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. Wait a minute, and take me from that moment,
okay,
when that violation happens to where you are now.
Okay, so from that moment, I look back on it now, and I had to have been in shock. I mean, my reaction is not to go quietly into the night. But as my therapist has helped me to understand that is a response that we talked about, earlier, that is a common response, that this is just, unbelievable. And you're kind of frozen and And then the next day, I'm like, well, I got to press charges. Now, I did think, okay, the consequences is going to be public, but so what? My life has been very public, but as I said in the press conference Monday, my private life is very private. Even before I went on television, by design, I don't like people in my business. And so this was really being very open and very vulnerable, and I would do it all over again. So I would say, reach out to somebody immediately that you trust. In my situation, it was this wonderful man, Thomas Brown, who I will be forever grateful to. And then to be surrounded by an assistant and to have a therapist that I knew well and I could call, a play younger sister who's also a lawyer. And then, just to have this family, this extended family. And so look for some support. It may be your friend, it may be your pastor. Find some anchor that helps you get grounded in a space that you can stand and be strong. This is not easy now. I'm not going to sit here and tell you. This has been extremely difficult. And for me to break down in court like I cried, because I didn't think I would cry like that. I mean, I thought maybe, be emotional. I wept. I mean, openly wept in court Monday morning during my impact statement. I didn't write it out. It was from my soul. And basically, this has been a scar. As he just talked about, this really is a scar on my soul. I don't know how else to explain it. And there has to be somebody that you trust, a village that will
get with you and give you and help you have the courage to do what needs to be done. My thing is that if I had not, how could I have lived with myself? How can I say that I am a strong Black woman who is out here trying to fight battles for people all the time? I'm now on the other side of the bench. This amazing law firm, Stewart Miller Simmons, bunch of young boys. I'm the gray hair, kind of comes and advises. But that's where I'm supposed to be at this point in my life. I did the Philando Castile case. People don't remember that. He was that first guy in Minnesota who was killed by the police officer while his girlfriend. And, I, just a few months after my daughter died tragically, my son looked at me and he said, "Mom, you gotta go." And so I see myself as the one who's always supporting and nurturing and trying to take care of people. And I had to allow myself to be taken care of. I had to be vulnerable. I had to be open. I had to be prepared for whatever came. Was this people going to try to destroy me? Were they going to, did I need to tighten security? Did I maybe shouldn't go out by myself in my car at night? I mean, I had security from our law firm, come and drive us to court. C.K. Thomas, my best buddy, Jay, we all piled in the SUV. I had security Monday morning, right? I have moved. I live in a different place now. I've had to do things differently because, this person clearly has had deep ties in the MAGA movement. And I live in Georgia. I'm clear. And so the judge is very clear. He said, I'm not going to promise you. I'm not going to threaten you. I'm going to promise you, if you have any contact with Judge Hatchett, I'm going to lock you up. And he meant that.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just saying, take it, get help, get therapy, and rely on your village to support you through this.
I don't know what else to say.
If I can be of help to people, I'm going to keep posting on social media information on my social media. People follow that. I'm easy to find. I'm real easy to find.
How can we find you?
In Atlanta. Yes, you can find me. I am at, what is my thing? Well, let me give the phone number. That's the easiest one.
Okay, because I was going to say, I'm
404, which is
the Judge Hatchett, 1T.
Yeah.
I'm never even find it there. It's 2 T's actually, but in the social media, they dropped one of the T's.
Yeah, they messed that up. Okay, so if I can get someone to send you my social media, if you will post it for me, that's a shame I don't know.
Have them send it to me. Absolutely, yes.
Okay, and the phone number I can say, because I that's very easy, at smstrial.com is the website, but the phone number is super easy. It's area code 404, which is Atlanta, law firm. And so, I have been trying to be as accessible as I can be, because there are a lot of people who are hurting. And if my story helps them, then that is what I'm supposed to do.
And it will. But I don't think you can tell it too much. Aaron, are you still there? Aaron might have had
I am. Yes.
Why don't you
thank you so much for this conversation. I'm going to replay it for my stepdaughter, and it's on the heels of that conversation we were having with a couple of my friends, with her preparing for college, and that how important the community of women you surround yourself. That's the important thing. Who is next to you? Who's going to stand up and defend you? Right? Building that community is so important. And thank you for leading in this way. I'm so grateful to speak with you this morning. And Santita, thank you again. Really, this is so important for all of us.
Oh, look, and let me tell you.
Santita, I wish I were in a space to hug all of you. I cannot tell you. I am so full. I'm getting teary. About just this support, this conversation this morning. I just thank you for creating this space. And, I do think that things happen for a reason. I believe deeply in God, and maybe this I've been, for the last 7 years, I've been on the battlefront on the maternal death piece with Black women because of my own daughter's tragic death in 2016. And maybe this is what I'm supposed to do now. Maybe this is the next piece of which I will not abandon that. But, God, like somebody used to say, God doesn't put any more on you than you can bear. Sometimes I'd be looking like, wait a minute, God, have you checked the scales lately? Like, are you keeping track of the scale over here, Lord? I mean, I know you're mighty, but I mean, my plate has become a platter.
What did my brother Jonathan say? He said, would you ask God, when is the test going to be over? He said, for real? I said, God can give you more. Only what you can bear, Johnny. He said, Santita, for real? Would you ask God, when is the test going to be over? He said, come on, when am I going to pass? What? But, look at how God lifted your profile. And I saw you on CNN not too long ago talking about your daughter. I want you to come back and talk about that. And in fact, I would love to work with you.
I do want to come and talk about that.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to talk with you. I'd love to talk with you offline about a campaign about that. Because
okay, good.
A friend of mine who I want you to meet
has my cell phone. You call me. PK has my private cell phone. You call me anytime.
I'm going to call you.
And that's for real. And she will tell you that.
There's a woman I want you to meet, Dr. Deborah Holden. Well, and another one, Dr. Shanina Knighton. Dr. Shanina Knighton is an infection preventionist, registered nurse, PhD, college lecturer at Case Western Reserve. First person in her family to go to get a high school diploma, let alone a PhD. And she does infection prevention. Oh, yeah. And this young woman is not even 40. Dr. Deborah Holden is the Dean of Global Public Health at NYU. So she oversees about 11 or 12 campuses globally. And in fact, I'm going to be at the UN meeting with her in September. We need to talk about this maternal health. Period.
Well, Santita, we were just talking about this with one of my close friends is an OBGYN at low income hospitals here in Chicago. And she is a woman of color. She is Egyptian. And she has been on the front lines of this in the maternity ward. And a big part of this issue is connected to exactly what we're talking about. Not believing women when they say something is wrong in their body, not believing Black women, not having a staff around you that is advocating for patients in a way that is reasonable, using any standards of what that means. And it is terrible what we see happening. And there has to be a better system of patient advocates that are present to help these women, that they're already in a medical crisis and there aren't enough hospitals that are taking this seriously. And I'm so sorry about your daughter, but it is, if there's any way I can support that conversation, Santita.
No, you're in it. You're in it because we're all in it. First of all, America is full of is just hypocritical. Let me watch my mouth. 330 million Americans, conservative estimates according to our census. How many hospital beds do you think we have, Judge Hatchett?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Say 330 million people. How many do you think we might have? Just give us.
We should have. We should have. Certainly over 1 million, 2 million, 5 million.
Okay, Aaron.
I have no idea.
we're under 920,000. I have no idea. Under 920,000.
How much?
It's under 1 million.
Stop.
900.
Stop.
No.
Whoa.
No. So when you talk, and you're using affirmative action or the lack thereof to keep us from developing doctors and nurses. You're closing hospitals. Yes. We had 1.5 million beds in 1970, 1.46 million beds in 1975. These people are not serious. What did my father say? He was at an event, he said, well, he was giving a speech, and he said, okay, how many of you own a VCR? This was back in the day. Hands went up. How many of you own a TV? My hands went up. Okay. How many of you have a bomb? Everybody went, no. And they the audience laughed. He said, see, that's America's problem. They're building they build what we buy. We build what they don't buy. Who needs a bomb? Hello? We're closing hospitals in America. And you want to know why maternal mortality? Women are having to drive an hour in Chicago to go have a baby. From the poor neighborhoods.
Well, I will tell you, I will tell you that, and we can talk about this more in depth, but just so that this can be on your mind as we go into this conversation. Kira was extremely healthy. I mean, like, 39 years old, second baby, spoke 4 languages. I mean, go and just read about her, right? Mm-hmm. And went into the C-section. Second C-section is supposed to be 12 to 15 minutes because this is her second C-section. Now she's teeny tiny, she's more a size 0. I think I used to laugh and say it was a -2, not even a 2. But just this beautiful woman inside and out. She goes to the C-section. I'm going to do this in 2 seconds. And the C-section is supposed to take 12 to 15 minutes because you got to go back to the original scar layer, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. This is not an emergency C-section. How long do you think it took? I'll tell you. Less than 4 minutes. He butchered her. And then let her hemorrhage to death. Yeah. We'll go into a lot of detail. And so that happened 7 years ago, April, right? And so we had a 19-month-old little boy and now this brand new baby. And I'm in LA. Of course, I live in Atlanta. I'm in LA and my son was going to stay. I said, no, you're grown, but you're coming home. You can't be here with 2 babies and be a grieving father and a husband and try to deal with it. So I'm moving back to Atlanta in my home. But my point is that people were saying, well, if they'd known it was your daughter-in-law, because I always called her my daughter, married to my son, if they'd known it was you, Judge Hatch, they wouldn't have let her die. I'm like, and I can't repeat what I would say. But my point is that none of them should be dying. More than 83% of the maternal deaths are preventable. Mm-hmm. And so, again, I didn't want to be the poster child for the sexual abuse stuff. I didn't want to have to do this for the maternal death. But this is what God has put on my plate, and I have got to honor this. I've got to do everything I can. And so for 7 years, honest to God, I couldn't take on these maternal death cases. I can now because I'm in a different place in my grieving process. Sure. And so I am doing them. I am doing them around the country now because this is my responsibility to do this. And, you got to do, God has blessed me. And, I can't shy away from these responsibilities. I just can't. What do I say to my grandchildren who don't have a mother that I just, pull the covers over my head? Or my granddaughter who's almost 2, that I did nothing when this man violated me in such a demeaning, horrific way. I have to be able to look them in the eye and say, I fought the good fight. That's right. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Well, you're not alone. And that's the thing. I know. That's the wonderful thing about it. I know I am not alone. Thank God for that. I'm going to text you so that we can go on and begin. I know my mother put on the biggest women's event for Hillary Clinton of her campaign. We had more than 2,000 women here in Chicago. And I'm going to circle back with her. And because we want to start organizing people here, but starting with women. And, I can look at maternal mortality, hygiene, poverty, women cannot get sanitary pads and things like that. There's some things where I really want to talk about this maternal mortality because I have one of my girlfriends that
she died after. Oh boy, she killed herself because they didn't track her.
Yeah.
She's from a family of physicians. They didn't track her postpartum depression, and she jumped out the window. Everybody was like, "What happened here?" and certainly this was not supposed to happen to her because she's from an upper class Black family. Blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, it did. Okay, and you will get ignored.
Depression, yeah.
No, there's caste and there's class. But I think what white women have to understand is they are in the female caste. It's all of our problem. It's all of our problem. And indigenous women have worse outcomes than we do.
They do. They do.
This is horrible. How are you going to be the number one nation on earth and everybody's dying? How is it that you don't you have military bases but you don't have hospitals? Are you serious? No, I got a problem with that. And my mother's from a military family. I get it. I got it. Good. But I am into peace. Okay, y'all. Why don't we start negotiating that? Why don't you start building some hospitals? They're closing them. Urgent care doesn't get it. When I have a life and death problem, urgent care ain't it. Drive through McDonald's for my health care? I don't think so. This is ridiculous. But that is why God lifted you, gave you this platform, and we have our eyes fixed on you because you can help us to see.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, no.
Thank you.
You know, my father.
My heart is full.
I just want you to know. My father used to say to
grateful.
my brother Jonathan, who's in Congress now, and Jonathan had his own struggles because he is the darkest one of us. I'm gonna be straight up about that. My parents had a lot of friends they would not invite back into our house because my father said when I saw them favoring you and Jesse over Jonathan, they could not come back. And there was nothing else to say. And Jonathan had to deal with that all of his life. And my father would constantly lift Johnny up and son, come with me and do this. And son, come with me and do that. It was heartbreaking for my parents to hear him in a 60 Minutes interview, which happened just before Dad ran for president the second time. And he said, my college experience really saved my life. He said, my parents did everything they could. He said, but college was the first time I saw someone as dark as me teaching physics, doing this, doing that. He said it just, and my father just, he could barely hold it together. And I remember him saying all of our lives, baby, I don't know, because my father calls his sons and daughters baby, son, you don't know.
Of course.
Yeah. He said, son.
That's at South Carolina. My family's from South Carolina.
That's what y'all do.
Oh yeah. No. Everybody's baby. It don't matter. It don't matter. Everybody's baby.
Oh my gosh.
It don't matter. I'm telling you.
No. And it's in South Carolina because my father does it. And he said, baby, I don't know. You don't know what God has in store for you.
Right.
He said, come with daddy. And now he's in Congress. He hadn't planned for that. And I'm saying with no one, you became a judge, you came on television, everybody has loved and admired you. You have people who are looking for you now. You have a lot to say. You have a lot to say. You have a lot to say.
This has been, I'm going to tell you, y'all, this has been so uplifting for me this morning. I am like, ooh, I'm just like, oh, Lord, yes. I mean, you all have poured into me this morning. And I want to say to each of you that I am very grateful. I don't take this for granted. I am very grateful to you. I don't even have the words to thank you, but I just want you to know that I feel so even more energized this morning after hearing from all of you. And I thank you for that. I really do. I really do.
Well, we thank you for your courage because now we're energized. you helped us. So Aaron, we've got some work to do before we invite Judge Hatchett to Chicago.
Sure.
Seriously.
We sure do.
I
sure do. And thank you for the motivation.
I was just in Chicago the other night for dinner with a group of Black women DAs, which we got to keep Monique lifted in prayer down in Florida.
Well, you see, they're systematically chopping them off. Marilyn, Kim Fox.
Yes. Kim Fox. Kim Fox was at the dinner.
Of course.
It was a dinner, and they were thanking me. Judge Hatch, because I literally just flew in and out for the dinner. Came in, I was not even there 24 hours. And I just said this very quickly that the fight is in so many fronts, and they were thanking me, and I'm like, no, this is my responsibility. I was supposed to fly in to have dinner with you all. I needed to be here. I needed to talk to each of you. But Kim Fox was there, Monique, who just since DeSantis just fired, and everybody in that room had their stories. Of course, Bonnie couldn't be there because she's busy with this case. But I'm gonna say it again: that she is a bad sister on this, and she considers me a mentor. I've been sticking close to her, and we got to keep her prayed up because what she is doing is beyond phenomenal. The detail of this work that has produced this indictment is beyond phenomenal. And we all owe her a deep, deep gratitude for standing and being courageous, because there have been people who have not done what you did. Right? And that's a whole nother conversation, because I'm not happy with the DA and Manhattan. I don't care if he's black, because he punches on the real serious stuff. Stormy Daniels, I don't care. In the scheme of things, he could have done so much more. And that's why those two senior prosecutors left in protest. And so, but he's the black man who filed for, no. Okay, I'm getting into some other stuff. But we have got to be candid, and we have to call people accountable even when they look like us.
Even when they look like us, especially when you look like us. Why the hell are you there?
Yeah,
yes, I said that. And we're on YouTube. No. You're supposed to take all of this marching and fighting and dying we've done to get you there. You're not there because you're cute. You think Barack Obama was the first qualified Negro to be president? You're out of your mind. Frederick Douglass could have been president and should have been president. He's not the first qualified. He was the first one who had the opportunity.
Right. That is true.
Now, this is not the first smart Negro we've had in America.
No.
Shirley Chisholm could.
Right.
Just stop. We need to stop that. Yeah. And it is not enough, Judge Hatchett, for you to look like me or for you to be a woman like me, Aaron. I don't care about that. If you are a woman who's dropping bombs, I didn't sign up for that. If you're a black man who supports imperialism, I didn't sign up for that either. And I'm going to call you on it. And we need to do that. It's not enough for you to be black, to be a woman, to be a person, but to look marginalized. I need you to take the experience of the marginalized and lift everybody else up. If you're not doing that, you can go straight to hell, because that is where you are going. Because you have missed the lesson. And one thing you cannot do with God does not do social promotion. If you don't get the lesson, you're going to get it. You're going to learn the lesson over and over and over again until you get it right. That's why my mother said divorce doesn't do anything. I said, why not? She said, because until you figure out where you went wrong with this one, the next person you get is going to be just like them. Ooh.
Wisdom.
That's why I said, wow, social promotion, that works in the world, but that doesn't work with God. She said, there you go. She said, that's my point. So come on, everybody.
All right. Well, on that note, if it's okay, I'm going to go to work.
I love you.
And get to work.
You're gonna hear from us in the next few days, because I want you to come back as soon as you can to talk about your daughter. Let's walk through that experience.
Yes.
But I'm going to send you information about these hospital beds. There are no hospital beds in the United States.
Please send that to me. And CK has my private cell. You call me anytime.
Okay, I will do that.
And I thank you and for all your support from not only you, but for your entire family. I do. And I'll be happy to come to Chicago. We've got a lot of work to do.
We have a lot of work to do. And I think that and we can do it. And Aaron and I are going to work together, because this is all of our problem. This is all of our challenge. And this is when we come together and make everything right. Does anyone else have anything they want to say to Judge Hatchett before she goes? Dwight, Aaron, I don't know if Daryl is still there. Dwight?
Just go in peace, Judge Hatchett, and know that God does put you in positions for a reason that you sometimes don't understand, but know that there are real reasons for it. And be of good cheer, because I see great things coming out of even a bad situation.
Thank you. I received that. I do, and I thank you for that. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much for that.
Well, we love you, and our prayers, and all of our healing light and energy go with you and your family.
Thank you. Amen. Yeah. Thank you so much to me.
I don't know why God is using you, but God knows. And God is using you in a mighty way. And God is using you because you're available to God, and because you've been brought for such a time as this. I believe that.
I believe that too. I believe that. And my prayer this morning, because I pray every morning on my knees, first thing I do when I get out of bed, and I said, God, just show me, give me the strength to do what is necessary. And God, the whole song, order my steps, and just to, guide me and show me, because I do believe, I'm a poor colored girl who grew up in the Deep South, who the world didn't expect very much of. My daddy, who's my hero, who's been dead almost 30 years now, died suddenly of a heart attack, wasn't sick, not overweight, didn't smoke, any of that. I'll tell you that story later. But what he would always tell me is I could do and be anything I wanted to do. And I believe that. So I didn't see being a little colored girl as a curse. I never have felt that. And I owe so much of that to how my father poured into me. He struggled. I mean, he was a brilliant man. Had he had a fraction of opportunities I had, he would have been in the Supreme Court. But yet he spent most of his life, working in the post office under a white man who barely had a GED, and he had worked on his master's in business at the Atlanta University. I mean, I could go on and on. My point is that I believe that God has been preparing me for what I am doing all of my life. I just didn't see it as a child. I didn't. But he blessed me with amazing parents. We had no money, but we were rich in things that you can't even begin to quantify. So I'm extremely, extremely blessed. And I've got to fashion this conversation such that I am not defining myself as a victim, because I'm not feeling that way anymore. I was, but I'm not feeling that way anymore. And I don't want to see myself as a victim, even though technically I am. And I hope that I can encourage other people.
No, you were victimized. And there's a difference. Yeah. It's like being enslaved.
It is a difference. Thank you. That's what I'm going to do that. I was victimized, but I refuse to carry being a victim. I'm never going to find myself.
I'm bigger than this. But you violated me. It's okay. It's like I'm not a slave. I am enslaved. It's different.
Yeah, right. See, I needed that word. I needed that word.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everybody. I'm so grateful.
But no victim, and you are an example for all of us, and we thank God for you today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I receive all of that, and I'm so grateful to each of you.
And that's right. Thank you for having this man's pension yanked. Hello. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well,
God bless
thank you so much, everyone.
Love you, everybody, and love all of you. Hope that you got something out of this today. And Dwight and Aaron, we got some work to do. And I'm going to take a nap this morning, Aaron. I'm trying to get over a little something here. Well, I can tell you all, I've had walking pneumonia. Can you believe it? And so I'm trying to get over it now. And I feel a lot better. And I've pushed my way through this, but I'm now taking naps at the beginning of the day so I can, knock this out. But I love you. I love you. Love you, everybody. And
call Dr. Knight and she'll tell you what to do.
Oh, absolutely. We're
Call
gonna
Dr. Knight and she'll tell you what to do.
Oh no. So trust me. working all that out. And so I got to reorder because I've been ordering fresh orange juice every day, for example, among other things. And so now I got to boil up this tea, boil up what is it? My ginger. So I've got a lot of stuff that I've got to do. And liposomal vitamin C, which is something that your body absorbs much more readily. I've been doing that. I've been doing a lot of stuff. And so I feel a lot better. I'm just sweating like crazy every night, but that's a good thing. This is coming out because I have viral pneumonia, not bacterial. Bacterial, you can take an antibacterial and be done. Viral, you got to try not to get secondary infections and then work your way through it and just really get on the other side of it. So building up my immune system so that it can take care of this is what I'm doing. But I love you, Dwight. I love you. Oh, Janae, I'm good, girl. Trust me. Trust and believe. There you go. Love y'all. Aaron, love you. Daryl, Robert, didn't get you today. But Shanina, Henry, for a great show. Everybody, I love you, love you, love you. God bless you. Have a great one. Bye-bye.